Okay, let's get this over with. Now, that may make it sound like I don't actually like this figure. I do. I like this figure quite a bit. It's just, I got this guy earlier on in 2023, and I've been putting it off. I've been putting off a video for a long time because I just really didn't feel like dealing with all of the accessories and whatnot. But I felt like I may as well get it taken care of, getting it over with, you know? I would have preferred, like, I would have been much more excited about talking about this figure initially if I was just, you know, the core figure and didn't have to worry about the accessories, but I'm sure people would prefer that I go over the accessories too. So yeah, we're doing that. And you all know how I feel about extraneous accessories, and this guy, which is to say NewAge Agamemnon, has them in spades. Now, this is the comic colors version of Agamemnon. I went with this one because, one, it was what was available at the time, and two, it's just kind of nice. It mixes things up. I have a lot of Megatrons, and I kind of like the atypical Megatrons, so I was like, I've never had a comics color version of Megatron ever, so why not this? And yeah, it's an incredibly cool figure with a couple of weird limitations and way too many accessories that are actually kind of annoying. But anyway, here we've got the alt mode. This is Agamemnon in his gun form with the attachments, the suppressor, I guess, and the stock, and of course the scope on top, but that's more standard. And he is a tiny little pistol. Teeny tiny. The trigger does move, but it's not spring-loaded, which, you know, is understandable given the size, but yeah, you can pull it back. You just have to manually pull it forward again, or if you've got chunky fingers, use like a spudger to push it forward if you pull it back too far. The stock can wiggle up and down. There's actually a hinge there. The suppressor, scope, whatever, doesn't do anything, and yeah, it's a gun. It doesn't have articulation, but for what it is, it looks pretty good. It's a little bit messy around the midpoint here, which we'll see more when we take all this stuff off, but again, I think that's understandable given the size of this guy. But looks good, looks cohesive. Now we're going to pop this off. This just tabs in the back there, and this pops out and slides off. And you can kind of see how it goes. The little notch there for the bit there, that slides through there, and this slides around, and then it's just kind of frictions on like that. Holds pretty well, as you can see. But so far has not damaged any paint, which is good. And it slides off pretty easily. Though I think if I did remember correctly, this can actually come apart, so like if things get stuck, it's easier to remove, which I think is a really good idea. Glad they did that. But that's this. That's going to go off to the side for robot mode. This is also going to go off to the side for robot mode. And here we've got the main thing. Also, it's going to slide that out, rotate it, and put it back into place so that that is how it's supposed to be. And yeah, here is Agamemnon as a pistol. It's got the the orange plug as is customary, but it's pegged in, so you just give that a little wiggle, a little twist, and it pops right off. And that can go over to the side, and that's just going to stay in the box for the rest of the time that I have this figure, the rest of the time that I'm alive, who knows. And yeah, it's a Megatron gun, but very tiny, and I just find that so freaking adorable. It's also interesting. I like the way they did the colors here, because like it's comic colors, so it's this weird kind of really deep navy metallic blue for the grip and the scope, but then this nice kind of standardish but nice silver for most of it, and then like a little bit of red in there, which is not really great in terms of color, but you know, it's legend scale. But like, I like this blue that they used. They used it on the other gun accessory bits too. It's neat, and I like how it's like, it's more in keeping with the comic colors, but it still gives it this little bit of like premium flair, I guess. Also, the way this guy transforms is incredibly clever. Like, you could probably see the robot mode head right there, but there are a lot of surprising things that happen here that I just think are really neat. But anyway, there he is. There's some nice molding on the grip. It's the appropriate silhouette from what I can tell. It's just kind of messy in here because of how all of this needs to transform and because it is a very small scale figure, which again I think is understandable. Now, one of the accessories is usable in this mode. That is this little piece here. This can plug in to the gun barrel, and then you can attach the blast effect parts that come with other NewAge figures there to make it look like the gun is shooting. And I believe this can also plug in here, yeah. So you can, like, I'm not going to do it all the way, but you can plug that in there for, like, the fusion cannon, give that a blast effect. Agamemnon does not actually come, at least this version, does not come with any blast effects. So you have to use blast effects from other NewAge figures, but it's cool that they thought that through. And yeah, that's kind of all I can say. This guy is a small gun, and that's what he turns into, and that's about all I got. So let's just move on to size comparisons so we can get to the real meat and potatoes of all this. Here he is with our regular size comparisons, and he's NewAge, so he is a little bit tiny, but a good tiny, if you call it that. And if we bring in Burnout here, and see that, yeah, he's small. All right, get all these out of the way, and bring in the critical size comparison, the one that we all need to see. Here is Agamemnon with the duck tank. Now, before we do the transformy thing, real quick, if you all like this video or any of the other videos that I've done on the channel and you want to support the channel, I do have a Patreon, which there's going to be a link at the end of the video, but there's also one down in the description. And just have a single $1 tier. That $1 a month gets you early access to new videos and access to the occasional Patreon-only video that I make. Otherwise, if you want to support, you can always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. And now we can transform this guy, and this is interesting and cool and a little involved, but not bad. First thing, we want to take the scope off the top. Just pop that off. There's this little section here, clips over this bit here, and this is actually really clever what that is, but we'll get to that later. And then you take the scope and compress it down to make the fusion cannon. Now, this is a little bit tricky because some things peg in a little too well and are a little hard to get separated, but I want to disconnect this piece here. It's actually just kind of pegs into these little tab sections right in there, and just kind of fold that out of the way, like so. And now I want to unpeg these sections here from here, and this I'm going to use a spudger for. I want to just kind of get that in there and flip that up. Same deal here. Flip that up. Now comes the trickier part. This entire bit here pulls back and it's pegged in pretty solidly. So I want to wiggle that out. You can see how it's separating. Just give that a wiggle. And you also want to kind of pull these bits out a little bit so that we can push these through, because those actually have to come with this. So separate this out, push these through, and as you can see, I am struggling because it comes together perhaps a little too well in some places. But we do that. Come on. I think it's still kind of pegged in a little too tightly up there. Come on. Come on. Let go. Let go. Why are you not letting go? There we go. Okay. So with that unpegged, now this whole thing can swing out. And let's do the lower body. So I want to split all this apart. But before you do that, you actually want to open this up because this doesn't peg together, it slides together. So fold this door out first, then this one. You can see the peg there. I guess it does kind of peg, but I don't know. It seems like it's got a bit of a T shape to it, so better to be safe than sorry. So just lift that out first, then that. Then we can split this whole thing in half, like so. Straighten these bits out. These pieces will rotate around 180 degrees on both sides. Now, this is the cool part. Like these bits that were that the fusion cannon was clipped onto, this slides out, rotates up, and then we'll actually tab in over this tab here, and that fills in the leg. That's really cool. And then this just folds in like that. Then this piece folds back, and there you've got a foot. And yeah, that was Megatron's foot the whole time on the back of the gun. I just think that's kind of that's really neat. Same deal here. Slide this out, rotate it around, and tab it in. Fold this around and in. And then here it's slightly different because you want to take the hammer, I think it's called, and rotate that in. Then rotate this down. And that just gives them like the flat thing on the other foot. And there you go. There are the legs. Now, let's see. I'll do the arms. This is another tricky part. You have to unpeg this little section here, and it pegs in a little bit. It's just kind of difficult to get that out, but unpeg that so you can swing this out a bit. Unpeg this section here, and you kind of want to angle this in because of how all this works. You want to angle that in so you can swing this out. Because there's the tab that sits under there. Like you can get it in just fine, but you kind of have to use these hinges to angle it and stuff. So you want to do the same thing, getting it out. But angle that, and keep that straight for now. And then this can just swing around like that. This one, kind of a similar deal. You want to rotate it in a bit so that you can get the fist past this piece. Then you can bring that up and around. And there we go. Now this can come up. These pieces fold in and just kind of rest like this. They'll become hip skirts. And then this front skirt flips up, flip out these little bits here to fill out the front skirt. And then this will rotate. Yes. No. Yes. So it was like this. Rotate this 180 degrees. Then this will actually, you can see there's a little track here. This slides up. And that gives you the space to bring the hips up into place. And that will fill that in. This, as I understand it, is the updated design for the legs. I am not the biggest fan of this. I don't think it looks that great, and it's very kind of fiddly, and I don't know. I feel like it would have been better if they stuck with the simpler, older version of the waist section, but this is what I got. This is what it came with. So with that done, now I'm going to unpeg this section here. Unpeg this whole, there we go. So this unpegs from here and here. We can bring this back and kind of bring that out as well. And to pull the head back, gotta kind of fold this down a bit, pull the head back so we can rotate this 90 degrees. Then this swings back and becomes the chest. Head back up, bring this back up, bring this back up. And now, this part is a little bit, this is like the trickier part. So you want to get that trigger kind of out of the way. This piece folds up and feeds through this this cavity here. Get that out of the way. Feeds through this cavity here. So you want to feed that through. and the trigger will actually go through this little trigger guard too as you do that. So that is how that happens. But what gets kind of fiddly is you want to take this piece, just this little gray piece here, not the silver bit, and fold that back and around, and it can be a little tricky to get lined up and in there, but you want to get that through. Then you can fold this down, and that will kind of settle into place to become the midriff section. And yeah, you're definitely going to need a tool to get that back out going into gun mode. But there's that. Now, these pieces were like this. You want to swing them down here, and then bring this up, and this will tab in here. And that goes there. Swing that down, bring that up, and tap that into place. There we go. Now we'll do this arm first. So take this section here, swing that in on itself, and it kind of tabs in. And then this section folds back to kind of fill in the shoulder. Then pull here to unclick the forearm section. Come on. Oh, that's really... Okay, come on. I don't like how hard that is to move. It's a little too snug for its own good. Come on. There we go. Okay. So, trick to it. There is an elbow in here, so instead of trying to pull, just bend this, and that should pop it out. So with that popped out, you can slide it down and then keep pulling until it clicks. And that gives you the arm. And then take this little thing here and pull that out. And we'll do this now. Take the fusion cannon and plug it in over this. There is... there we go. There is one arm. Then this arm does some really cool stuff. So you want to fold this in as we did the other shoulder and fold that back. So this is where things get really cool. This folds in here, and then this piece folds in like that. And this entire assembly kind of accordions in on itself. Then this folds in and tabs in here. And then this folds down. And that gives you the other arm. I just think it's really cool how that other arm comes together in a very interesting asymmetrical fashion. And then for the backpack, you just, this comes down. This will untab from back here. This will swing up and into position, and then this can swing down the rest of the way. And there you go. There is NewAge Agamemnon in robot mode, and he is very cool and also a lot shorter than how I had things situated. Another thing you can do, actually, if you prefer, as you saw, this piece can slide out. What I like to do to make it look a little bit more, you know, G1, I guess, is pop this off, rotate it around so that that bit is facing in, and put it back down. So yeah, you can line that up however you want, which I do think is really cool. I appreciate that. And yeah, here we go. Here is Agamemnon, looking very much like Megatron, and it's a neat figure. He's definitely got some fiddliness to him. Like there are some things like these pieces here don't really tab in. They just kind of sit. So it's really easy for those to rotate as you're messing with the legs. This waist piece here doesn't really lock in, so it kind of wants to wiggle. And it doesn't really look right from most angles. I just don't get. I really wish they didn't do that, but whatever. The shoulder bits here, they don't peg in either. They just kind of sit back there. I mean, it all works. It just kind of would be nice if it was a little bit more secure in robot mode, but It's not like he's a floppy mess, it's just certain things don't tab in. But still, what you get is a very Megatron-y looking Megatron, and the idea, like the fact that they were able to create a gun Megatron at this scale that works pretty darn well in both modes, all things considered. It's pretty wild. And now here, of course, is where you get more of that comics color, specifically in the helmet, because the helmet is a different color than the rest of the head. So that is kind of one of the main things that set this design apart from like typical G1 Megatron, at least from what I've seen. And it looks good. I like the color separation. It's still kind of G1 Megatron-y, but a little different. There's some nice detailing on this guy. On the insides of the legs, you get some nice detailing. You get some nice texture in like the midriff section. This box does kind of stand out a bit, just due to the way it all comes together, but still looks nice. And then you also have the typical Megatron detailing in the chest, which looks good. And considering everything that is going into the arms, I feel like they came out looking relatively clean. And I also like that the tabs that were used for the transformation here still evoke, at least shape-wise, silhouette-wise, the hammer kibble that was on the shoulders, typically. And of course, you got the barrel sticking up over his back, which you can adjust the tip however you want. So yeah, he looks good. Again, I like the metallic blue that they used as the kind of comicsy color. He is a neat fellow and just very clean, all things considered. Like, yeah, there's some stuff, some shenanigans going on back here, but like it is pretty clean. It's not what I would call like a mess. It's just not sealed up. But like it's also not what I would consider kittle, really. It's just his back doesn't close up as tightly as, say, like the Masterpiece. Well, no, the Masterpiece is actually a freaking mess. So, yeah. I don't know. Not hating on the Masterpiece. I actually think it's really well done. It's just that back is definitely a mess. I really wish that this was different. But yeah, he is cool. Colors are nice. Detailing is nice. Surprisingly clean, and again, like very, very cool for the size. Now, for the head is very Megatron. I have the kind of maniacally laughing face on this one, and the shape and sculpt I think is kind of perfect. Can't really fault it for any of that. The detailing is great. The gold eyes don't stand out super well with everything else going on there, but I think that's more of a, source material issue than a toy issue. He does come with an alternate face. He has the kind of grim, stoic-looking face, and that just, you can see there's like a little peg on the back there, so you can pop the face off, pop the other face on, but like, looking at the two of them side by side, there's just so much more personality on this one that's the one that I was like, yeah, I'm definitely keeping that one on. But it does have the other face. But yeah, it's nice. I love that they painted the mouth black too. It makes that open mouth laugh really stand out, especially given the size. Now, in terms of articulation, as you can see, the head is on a ball joint, so you do get side-to-side tilt, up and down nod, and is there a joint? There's not a joint that the head can move on, okay. But it can rotate, so you got that. The shoulders can go all the way around and can go out to not quite 90. They just kind of stop because of everything going on here. But they can go out further if the arms are rotated down, and also this kind of shows you that where the arm is located. It's a little bit awkward, but again, scale, I think it's fine. You get a bicep rotation, you get a 90-degree bend at either arm, even though they transform differently, 90-degree bend on both, and then the fists are just pegged in place. So Those are swivels. Swivel those. The waist does rotate. Kind of want to move this junk back and out of the way a bit if you're going to use that, but it does rotate, and this is kind of more what you're seeing with like the problem with this whole waist assembly. It just doesn't want to, like, it goes up this far, but then you're left with like this kind of gap here, and I just don't really understand what the point of that was. And I don't think this accordion's down. Nope, it does not accordion down. It's just, yeah, just slides up. So yeah, that's not great, but that's how they decided to do this one, the updated waist. But anyway, if you angle these hip skirts down so that they're at least flush with the front skirt, you can get that full waist rotation. And then because of that hinge in there, you do get a bit of ab crunch, which works pretty well. You can kind of use that transformation joint to get a bit of butterfly motion going to the inside, but like it's kind of negligible. But it's an option. Now for the hips, if you get the hip skirts and front skirt out of the way, the hips are on ball joints so they can go forward to a little bit past 90, back to about 90, out to 90. You've got that drop down joint, so if you want to use that to kick up past 90, you can kind of fudge it. Also, I tightened the hips, but I may have tightened them a little too much. They were really wobbly when I first got them, though. But anyway, you get a thigh rotation. The knee can bend. It's a single joint, but it does bend pretty far. It's well past 90. You can kind of get further if you move this out of the way if you really want, but then you've got this hanging out. But from some angles, it might look okay. But you're going to have to move that out of the way if you want to get that super deep knee bend. And then for the feet, you do not get any rotation at the feet. You don't get any front and back motion, but you can move this piece down to kind of compensate for stepping forward for like added balance if you want to do that. And you do get inward ankle tilts. So yeah, pretty posable for what he is. I mean, you know, it's a legend scale Megatron that actually manages to transform into a pistol. I think that's, you know, some concessions were going to have to be made, and I feel like the concessions that were made do make sense. Still just don't like this waist assembly, though. I would have preferred the original design that's maybe not quite as cohesive looking, but just seems a lot less annoying to deal with. And again, like this just keeps wanting to slide down, and it's like you have to angle it's like you have to use the ab crunch to cover up that gap. I just don't care for that. But anyway, enough getting distracted by Megatron's underpants. The sentence I just said. For accessories, he does come with the kinds of things you expect. We already saw the alternate face, but it's Megatron, so he comes with a bunch of other stuff that I just do not care about. He's got 2 pointing hands, and they they work the way you think they're going to work. If you take them off of here, you just unplug the fist and plug this on, and then he's pointing. Same deal with the open hands. Got the splayed open hands. Do that. But they have these unsightly gaps in the palms. Then you've got other accessories, like he has the key to Vector Sigma that can plug into his hand. And he sure is holding that key to Vector Sigma. He also has the gun, which is, again, just why I'm not plugging in all the way, but it can go in all the way. But yeah, he comes with that. He sure does come with that. He does also come with the energy mace. It is just a solid piece from what I can tell. And you can put it in his fist, I believe, so we can hold it like that. Or you can unpeg the hand and peg the energy mace into the hand stump. And there he's Mason, he's flailing. I know, I'm sorry for anyone who's like really into these things. I'm just super not. They just add unnecessary junk that I have to keep track of. But you can also do things with this, or a thing. So you can take the back of the stock here, split that apart, and then you can do this either way. You can do it this way or this. You can do it this way or this way. I prefer to do it this way, and I'll explain why in a second. Basically, these will tab over these, like so, and that gives you his like G1 playtime cannon. And the reason I like to orient it this way is because that allows you to tilt the cannon up, which makes more sense. But if you want to, you can peg it in this way so that it can angle down. It all depends on how you want to pose it, really. But in addition to this, what you actually need to do is take the fusion cannon off his hand or arm, and the fusion cannon will tab in over this. And there you've got the big cannon thing, and you can do this or something like it and have him manning the whatever this is called, the big cannon. I don't know. The thing you can do. Unfortunately, this does not do the thing that the Masterpiece Megatron does, which I thought was really cool, where you could use this as a display stand or flight stand or something, or action base, whatever. I really wish it could do that, but it's, you know, it's legend scale. I think that's fine. It's understandable, at least. I'm not thinking it's like a huge problem. It just would have been nice because they did so many other things with this guy. But I'm finally done talking about the accessories. Yay! So yeah, meet Tiny Megatron. I feel like this video is an absolute mess. I'm sorry, but we're just trucking along. Gotta get through it. So size comparison wise, here he is with Voyager, the rough equivalent of a Tall Deluxe in Overprime, and Samus Amiibo. And we get all of this out of the way. We can see how he stacks up with a Standard Deluxe. He is a lot smaller than a Standard Deluxe or Mainline Deluxe, however you want to look at it. He's shorter than Burnout is the main point that I'm trying to make here. In addition to that, here he is with another small Megatron, the Core Class G2 Colors Megatron, so you can see he is bigger than a Core Class. And before we get to the most important size comparison, one more thing. We've got a fellow New Age figure, that being NewAge Clover, their Shattered Glass Grimlock. And I feel like this makes a lot of sense because, you know, it's Grimlock. Grimlock is supposed to be rather large compared to everyone else. So that works. But, of course, gotta do the most important size comparison. So here is Agamemnon with... okay. Here's Agamemnon with the duck tank. And that does it for NewAge Agamemnon. He's... like, I do like him. I like him quite a bit. It's just there's some fiddliness with the robot mode in terms of posability, in terms of structural stability, in terms of the freaking waist assembly being a butt, no pun intended, that I just wish were handled a little differently. That said, from what I've seen of Magic Square's version of Megatron, this is the one to go with, because this guy's at least fun to transform. But, yeah, it is a cool figure. I know I've been harping on it a lot, particularly the accessories, but that's, you know, that's 100% a me thing. but like this guy looks cool. He's fun to mess with. He has a lot of personality, especially with that face, and like these colors look great. The transformation is really interesting. I really like how they did some really clever and surprising things with the way the legs and the arms transform. And yeah, I feel like you can't go wrong with any version of this guy if you can get a hold of him. I would have preferred to get the Toy Colors version, but one unfortunate name, I don't know why NewAge has been doing that, or was doing that with their Legendary Heroes. Even it's Legendary Heroes, why would you name your figure? Not the place for that. Point is, I would have gotten the Toy Colors version even aside from the questionable name that they went with, but the problem with that was when I wanted to get this guy, nobody had him in stock. Like, nobody had any NewAge Megatrons in stock. I forget where I got this guy from eventually, but like, it was one of those things where I think it was the Chosen Prime, where like they had him and they didn't have, like, he was at a decent price, not like the ridiculous markups that some of these have gone for, and I was just like, I'm getting it, and that'll be that. And then of course after I got him, that's when they did all the reissues. So you're welcome, everyone who was looking for this guy after I bought him, or versions of this guy. Yeah, griping of, very particular griping aside, this is a very cool figure, and I'm going to stop saying that because I feel like I've reiterated that point multiple times. So that has been my look at NewAge Agamemnon in comics colors. What do you all think of this guy? Or any of the other versions that NewAge has put out, because NewAge does love their recolors, or how he compares to other Megatron figures, whether they're Legends scale or not. Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and just have one more to do, and I'll have made it through my small stockpile that I set off to the side of figures to film. It's not happening tonight, though. But you all won't know the difference.